and it should go.
Music.
And goodness me, we can waffle for a few minutes because it takes a little while for people to kind of to join us. So I'm going to keep an eye. I've got a separate screen here, so it should show that we're going live. Oh yeah, it's showing that we're live. I can't see anybody on yet. Oh, my husband's in. Hey, hey. Evening. If when anybody starts coming on here, we just need to remind them to put their name in the chat if they're putting any messages on. So let me just say, so here we go. This Oh, I don't know how that. Oh, there's some weird thing. There's a weird thing that happened then. I don't know how that. Maybe I can't. Maybe when you're on here, I can't share messages, so that'll be a little bit annoying. But it seemed to. I can't see an option on here. This, as I said, this is a new kind of a relatively new sort of system. Or streaming system. I said to my son tonight. I went, "I am a streamer," and he just looked at me with disdain.
Is it being recorded?
Yeah. It's recording. Right. It's recording. Anyway, right. So let's start. Let's just start because I can see my husband's on there. So Rich, can you put you've done some likes, plenty of likes and thumbs up if you are watching this, because it will let the Facebook algorithm know that we are on here. I have Ann Diment from Work Safe and Well, and we tonight are going to be talking about, I think it's a very topical subject, resilience and burnout. So keeping resilient at work and avoiding burnout for 2022. I think it's a really, really important subject for everybody, and we all need to take a leaf out of the book that we're just about to read. So Anne, just to say thank you for joining us. Hang on. Oh, I can just see my friend Emily is just joining us. I can't actually add your message on here because I don't at the moment, because it just threw us out. Because we're on a double screen and it'll throw either me or Anne out. So apologies.
What's the message?
She just says hi.
Oh, okay. I can't see anything. I'm sitting here just looking at you, Liz, so I can't see anything. So
can you not see? I can just see my dashboard here. That's fine then.
I can't see anything. I can see a little bubble in the chat with three.
Say what?
I can see a little bubble in the chat with three messages, but that's it. I'm kind of distracting that.
I don't touch it because it'll just all go wrong again and we'll just lose everything. So
the joys of technology.
I know exactly. So you've had a very busy day, haven't you?
I have. It's been a very interesting day. I started off with a meeting of a local nature partnership talking about green prescribing and well-being, which is one of my passions because I work as a social prescribing coordinator and one of my many hats. And then I had a lovely singing lesson.
Lovely.
And then I spent the afternoon working on this burnout training video that I'm making.
So this is perfect timing.
Perfect timing. And then I've just spent an hour and a half with lots of other mind volunteers and lived experience volunteers talking about how to share lived experience in mental health. So all preparation for now. Brilliant, isn't it?
Perfect timing. Yeah. So I have got a question. I wanted to just do me. I know we've been on, and this is brilliant that I can get you on live this time because you changed your band practice night, and me and Mitch will be really. I'm jealous.
You were on holiday, weren't you, when we spoke last?
Yeah, we were. Yeah, so I actually that worked quite well. Just being able to set it up and get it going. Yeah, that was fine.
Yeah,
but just give us some background. So those who've not seen you before, Anne, just give me some background to who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Okay, so I call myself now. I identify as a creative change maker.
Okay,
and the reason why I identify as that is because I spent about over 20 years just trying to be something I couldn't be in terms of being a perfectionist and battling with my mental health through after a lot of childhood trauma. I won't go into detail here, but
Mm.
yeah, I survived the and left home. And basically, throughout my 20s and 30s, I was in and out of depression and breakdowns and burnout. And I was diagnosed with PTSD when I was 38. So
Oh, wow.
I won't give my age away, but I've spent over a decade coming to terms with that and learning about how that's impacted my mental health, and actually learning that actually that probably was why I kept burning out, because the symptoms of PTSD are um, inner critic and perfectionism and people pleasing and being hyper vigilant, so trying to keep yourself and everyone else safe. And that probably is why I spent nearly 20 years as a health and safety practitioner. So I've spent over 20 years as a health and safety practitioner and
Yeah.
consultant. And then about 9 years ago now, we had a family situation where my mother-in-law developed a terminal illness, cancer, and we were up in Scotland, and my husband's family were down here in Somerset, and we had to make that difficult decision that lots of families have to make. Well, what do we do? So we relocated from 500 miles from Edinburgh to Somerset, and
Mm.
basically, to summarise the past 9 years, 3 house moves, 2 bereavements, 4 years of legal action
Oh,
after
God.
the probate, and numerous jobs trying to fit in with childcare in a rural setting. And yeah, I burnt out again because
Oh,
you do, don't you, when you're dealing with all that. So
yeah.
I was determined not to burn out again. So I've spent the last few years basically turning my work life and basically my whole life around to doing what I'm passionate about, which is creativity as a wellbeing tool. So I am a creative resilience coach and EFT practitioner. I learned EFT tapping too. So went back to college, did an art foundation, and I'm doing what I love. I'm helping other people access arts and nature through the social prescribing role that I do, and also coaching people on becoming more resilient and managing stress.
You're a busy woman, aren't you? Goodness me.
Yeah.
So just break down a few of those things, will you? So the EFT tapping and your socials. I mean, I suppose maybe not. I don't know whether many people understand what social prescribing is. So do you want to
Okay.
just kind of break that down a little bit?
Yeah. So I mean, I realised, and the reason why I realised creativity was a wellbeing tool for me, because the thing that helped me cope with all that stuff that I just told you about in the last 9 years when I moved down here, I didn't know anybody down here. Obviously,
Mm.
been coming down here to visit family, but didn't know anybody. My husband was settling back into his home, so I went and joined art classes and various different creative classes just to help me deal with the stuff I was dealing with, stress and caring, being a carer. And I found it was profoundly healing to actually just take your mind off things just for that hour or
Mm.
whatever, just to keep your busy hands, calm the mind, sort of thing. So you're actually doing something else. It takes you out of that spiral of thinking.
So,
Um,
mm.
and it's estimated that about between 30 and 50% of all visits to GP practices, when you can get an appointment, um,
Yeah.
are, are for non-medical reasons. And
Mm.
it could be your relationship, it could be your financial situation, it could be your housing, it could be your isolation and loneliness. And the only place people think to turn to is their GP. And the only thing that GPs can do until the recent NICE guidelines changed is to give you a prescription. And the prescriptions are for pills or for
Yeah.
a medical thing. So social prescribing is allowing GPs and other health professionals to signpost and prescribe people to health walks or exercise or nature groups or art groups or choirs.
Mhm.
And
Rather than pill popping.
that actually can have much more beneficial effect on your
Mm.
health and well-being than the actual, because you're only treating one symptom, you're not treating the person as
Mhm.
one person.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
social prescribing. So yeah, it's
And
it's
go on,
it's joy.
EFT tapping.
Okay,
Explain,
so
because we were
EFT
just
tapping.
talking about this, weren't we? About my
Yeah,
my shoulder.
it's a tool. It's one of the tools that I use in my coaching practice, and I see clients just for EFT, but I also use EFT in my resilience coaching sessions, and power hour sessions as well, because it is a tool and it can be used. And EFT is emotional freedom techniques, and everyone will recognise acupuncture. You know what? Everyone
Yeah,
knows what acupuncture is, and it's been around for thousands of years. And the needles that are used in acupuncture are inserted at certain points around your body called meridian points.
yeah,
And
yeah. I know them.
yeah, so EFT basically is tapping on those meridian points.
Oh, is
So
it?
you're given a physical signal, that physical signal gets turned into a signal to the same part of your brain as a stress response gets generated. And I see it like a little dimmer switch. So when you are thinking about something, say a pain or a difficult situation that you've been through, or somebody cut you up today, or something like that, and you're talking about it, your brain doesn't know the difference between the time it originally happened and when you're recalling that situation. So it elicits
Mm,
the same stress response. So the EFT tapping, whilst you're talking about that, so you're tapping on different points, just turns down that response like a little dimmer switch, because your body's saying, well, actually, I'm talking about this, but actually this tapping is making me
make it feel
feel
better.
safe. Just calms it down, so you can actually look at it
Mm,
and think how you're going to respond to it and how you process it.
mm.
It's
Do you know,
very clever.
I so need that for just kind of
The
thinking about
pain,
this shoulder pain at the moment
yeah. I mean,
is kind of, yeah, it's difficult.
pain's a really good example because um, you, a Buddhist, philosophy is they call about the second arrow. So you can
Mm,
have the initial trauma or the initial injury or initial hurt, which is painful, but
mhm,
because we're scared of facing that or dealing with it, we either hide it or don't deal with it, and the energy it takes to suppress that and hide it, or the guilt and the shame and the fear,
mm, mm.
actually hurts you more than the original thing. And some people
Right.
carry some things for years,
Yeah,
and it's all stored in your body somewhere. The chemicals that your brain releases in response to that stress have to go somewhere.
yeah.
And unless you do something to safely release those, like people use exercise or some other, shouting or crying or whatever, whatever you do to release that stress. People will play sport or go for a run.
Mm, mm.
Or, unless you release that, it gets stored somewhere in your body.
Yeah, yeah.
So
My husband goes for a lot of walks on the weekend, but because at and I'm not as I'm not as able because of my ankle, and B, I'm probably a bit more lazy than he is anyway. So, but yeah, yeah, and actually, I think when we were kind of singing when I was singing in the band with him, that's how me and Rich met.
yeah,
That was an amazing,
yeah, it's released.
yeah, totally brilliant way of releasing. So yeah, or even just I miss at the moment not being able to drive and singing in the car. Just something like that kind of helps you to release it. Now I can see some messages coming up, so I'm just going to say so. Yeah, so Rich is saying my husband, and so just to explain, guys, I would normally put these messages on screen. I've got a split screen at the moment, but if I do, it kind of totally wipes me and Anne off the screen, so I can't. So Rich is saying, my husband's saying, walking's his mindful moment.
Yeah,
um, and Michelle, who works with me, she's just saying she loves EFT, and she said,
right.
and she was saying the second arrow theory makes a lot of sense. So yeah, so that's good for people, and I think actually because we're recording this, and it will be something that we can use on the group, and I
Yeah,
think people being able
definitely.
to listen to this a few times, it would be really worth people doing that. So I'm going to move on with some of the other questions. um right, what we've talked a little bit about resilience or being resilient. In your mind, what is being resilient? What do we have to do to be resilient?
That's an interesting question, and I guess that depends on the individual, because one person's idea of being resilient could be somebody else's idea of
Mm,
not being resilient. But in my view, it would be to be able to deal with the challenges and stresses that you are faced with every day, and all your past experiences, and be able to learn and grow from them and actually move forward.
Mm.
And there's a
Mm.
lot of acceptance in there. So acceptance, forgiveness,
Yeah. Yeah.
and actually acknowledging that sometimes you have to let things go and actually move forward, and actually learn lessons from things rather than having things done to you. You know, things that have been done to you. Think about things that you have experienced and can learn and grow from.
Mm.
Because I mean, I
Mm.
haven't. I've heard a lot of quotes from Viktor Frankl's book Man's Search for Meaning. I haven't actually had found the courage to read it yet. I've got it on Audible, but I haven't actually had to read it. But you know, we were discussing it at a webinar the other day, and even in the most direst of horrific circumstances, when they were being, you know, route marched to another camp and somebody died, and they literally had to stand there in the rain, they actually found themselves, he said in his book, they found themselves laughing because that was their release, that was their way of coping
Mm.
with it. And that
Mm.
made them more resilient, you know, when they were made to stand in the rain for 78, 72 hours as a
God, yeah.
punishment. And they were just joyful that there was no, I'm sorry if this is triggering anyone, I don't mean to be, but
Oh,
even in that horrific circumstance, they were laughing and joking because at the camp they'd been marched to, they realised there were no chimneys there were no gas chambers.
oh my
And,
God.
and that was where they found humour, even in that moment. I'm not saying you should, you know, it's not a laughing matter, but what I'm saying is you can be resilient regardless of anything that's happened to you. You can find some
Mm.
strength, inner strength, and
Yeah.
learn and grow from it.
Yeah. I think you're right. There's lots, we've all experienced many things, haven't we, in
Yeah,
our lives,
it's
you
having
know, so
compassion, self-compassion.
yeah, yeah. And you're right. If I think if we didn't learn and grow, then like you say, you're just keeping it in all the time. So I just to share, so I've had healing. And actually the lady that kind of gives, and my husband doesn't, anyway, we won't go into this, but anyway, so I totally believe that I'm quite different when I've been, and the number of times that I've actually been for healing, it just totally lifts me and makes me quite different. So
Yeah,
that's me sharing a little bit there, but that's something a bit different to what we were talking about. But the other thing you were talking about, you're doing was it a webinar on burnout? Just give me
yeah,
a little bit of background, because as I've said to you, and I've talked to these guys before, that I suffered from burnout in November really badly. Didn't I saw it coming? I should have realized. But just kind of give me sort of like some of the background to your webinar, to what it's about.
well, it came from a conference presentation that I had to do at Health and Safety Expo last year. And I just, and I've also taken it into schools to speak to teachers, because obviously teachers are experiencing burnout
Yeah.
far too frequently. And I have worked in schools just doing admin roles whilst I was doing my art thing, so I have seen it from the inside, from the governors' meetings, and talking to the staff. And with my health and safety hat on, obviously my job was to manage health and safety, and I was very passionate about making sure that we were looking after people's mental health, and stress
Mm.
management standards were developed over decades ago now, out of the research that Christina Maslach did in the 70s, and
Mm.
she's done a lot of work on burnout. And so I'd summarise this. So I've done a little bit about what burnout is, what the symptoms are,
Mhm.
and the big message is dropping the stigma around burnout, because it's not an individual issue. It's not about the individual who's experiencing the burnout, because the World Health Organization define burnout as a workplace phenomenon. It's to do
Okay.
with, and I've got to read this because I can't remember the words very well. It's listed in the International Classification of Diseases. It's not a disease, it's a
Okay.
workplace phenomenon,
Yeah.
and it's listed as a syndrome conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. So if you look at that definition of burnout, it's nothing to do with the individual and their experiences and how their ability to cope. It's to do with their chronic exposure to unmanaged workplace stress.
Mm.
And I think if we teach people that, they'll be able to find some self-compassion and be able to get the support they need without feeling stigmatized and feeling it's something that they feel weak, because we've had this
Mm.
about mental health for years. Oh, or if I get depression, I'm some way weak. But you're not. It's not about you. It's about your body and your mind needing some support in some way.
I can
So
just see there's a message that's come up from Annie, who I know,
yeah,
and she just says, yeah, she agrees it's poor management causing it. So in the workplace when you're working for people, then
yeah,
yeah, I think it can be narrow-minded management that don't they just look to kind of what is kind of thrash, not quite thrash you, but just keep you working, keep working, keep working. We need to do this. We're on a time scale on this and this. I think
yeah. I
that's
mean, yeah. There's this. I mean, Professor Maslow defined 3 types of burnouts. We defined individual burnouts. Obviously, the individual. Again, it's like, say for example, my situation with PTSD, perfectionism, self-criticism, that could lead you to burnout. But unless you're managed and supported adequately, it is your employer's duty to see if you're overworking or, you know what I mean. And then there's interpersonal burnout to do with relationships at work or at home. So that's obviously can be managed at work as well. It's one of the management
yeah,
standards is about relationships. And then there's organisational burnout, where it's to do with poor running of the company. So, not ineffective communication, poor change management. I mean, you're doing power of improvement. You know about all this, so you can distinguish between the 3 different types. But the stress management, Professor Maslach identified the workplace factors that can lead to burnout, and they have been translated into the HSC management standards for stress. So,
okay,
so the management standards for stress are based on Professor Maslach's research.
okay. I can
And
see now. So Annie's saying sometimes it's not yours to fix, but to shout out. And Michelle is saying she had a breakdown because of a manager causing her stress. She'd reported it to HR, and they said she got his personality wrong. It was an awful time. She was off 6 months and then went
yeah,
self-employed.
I've
And Annie,
experienced that. That's just shortly before we relocated. I had 9 months off work with well, it was bullying, but due to my PTSD, I dealt with it, and I didn't cope with it very well.
mm,
And
mm,
whilst I was off sick, they basically, now I won't go into detail, but basically they turned it into an HR thing against me rather than dealing with my illness. And the only solution they came up with was me to reduce my hours, to reduce my exposure to the stressor, which was my manager. So there you go. Thankfully I had to
mm.
leave. I mean, that was one blessing about having to move, was I had to leave all that behind. But
It
yeah,
isn't until sometimes that you come out of something like that, is it?
you don't realise for a few years later you're grateful, but at the time it's just horrible. I mean, I couldn't take my kids to school. I was so ill. I couldn't even go to the playground. I couldn't even walk to school with my kids. I couldn't face anyone. So yeah,
Oh,
it was horrible,
terrible. Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, not very nice. Um, so and there's a statutory duty on employers to risk assess for psychosocial risk, risk assess for stress. It's a statutory duty
Okay.
in the UK, and I'm a judge on the ROSPA health, ROSPA, Royal Society for Pressure
Mm.
Accidents. I'm a judge on their health. People can apply for health and safety awards, and they go through different
Yes.
categories.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a judge on the St George Earl Trophy, so it's the winners of each category go through to this trophy. So I'm one of the judging panel for that, and we sift all the applicants, and then we get this final 3 come and do a little Dragon's Den style presentation to us, so we can choose the winner of the trophy. And I'm the one that always gets the question to the CEO of whatever company, how do you deal with burnout? How do you deal with stress? And it's
Yeah.
very interesting. Some of these organisations are very good at, tracking absenteeism and
Totally. Yeah.
implementing health and well-being policies and procedures, and they're doing great work. But when you mention, I don't say the management standards for stress. I say the management standards, and they've not no clue, no clue.
it's another of those, in my mind, it's another of those tick box instances where they're kind of saying, yeah, we're doing this, but they're not doing it. They
They can
just
train as many mental health first aiders as they like, but as I said earlier on in the mind thing, if you judge a company by how many first aid kits they've got in the company, and then they say, we've got loads of first aid kits, but just so we don't have to worry about injuring people because we've got plenty of plasters to fix them afterwards. So it's the same with mental health first aiders. Mental health first aiders are first aiders. They're there to deal with people in crisis.
yes,
If you are in a
don't get to
workplace
crisis.
that's driving people to crisis or not supporting them when they are needing help, but it's okay, we've got mental health first aiders. That's
Yeah,
not. And
no,
and
sorry.
the HSE, the Health and Safety Executive expert, because there's a new international standard that came out last year on based on the management standards to manage psychosocial risk. It's an international ISO standard. I think it's 45,003. I can never remember these
Okay.
numbers, but look it up. There's lots of information. It came out last year, and at the webinar that launched this, they had a lot of panel of experts who'd contributed to this. It's an international standard, so it's a globally recognised framework to manage stress. And the HSC representative who'd helped develop this framework said the way he describes it is if you have a pond and you have a fish that's ill, like a sick fish, you take the fish out and you think, oh, that goldfish, take goldfish, or koi carp, depending on what sort of standard company you're in. You take the fish out and you think, oh, that's done. Then if you get another fish that dies, you think, oh, is there a problem with the fish or is there a problem with the pond? And
Mm,
sometimes we need to change the filters or clean the
yeah,
pond. And that's
yeah,
how best to describe it is, if you have one person with burnout or going off sick with stress, as they euphemistically call it, going off sick with stress, that's fine. But then when a few more go off, or they leave, and you wonder why they left, or they accuse somebody of bullying and they get moved on rather than the bully being treated, it's not
it's
the people
ridiculous.
that's the problem. It's the culture and the organisation of the company.
Exactly. Exactly. It's they need to look at the root cause. And this is one of the things that I talk about. It's not just a root cause of a generic process problem. It's the root cause of the culture problem. Annie said a little while ago, best resources for a company is its people. So they should
Mm-hmm.
invest and value their mental health.
That was the first motto I said when I was work safe and well is your people are your greatest asset, and actually I think we're starting to realise that in the last couple of years
Mm,
in the pandemic. I
mm,
mean, how many
about
companies
time.
have lost people at all levels because they've realised what they're doing? They think actually I don't want to do this anymore. My life's been
Yeah,
ruined by this commute every day or the stress of
exactly.
going to the office. And a lot of people are choosing to leave their jobs rather than going back to the old ways of working.
And there's a lot of entrepreneurs starting as well, aren't they? They call it.
Yeah,
So we were on a program together, weren't we? That we're talking about the entrepreneurial gold rush.
yeah,
That they
yeah.
think that's probably going to keep happening for a couple of years. But
Mm,
yeah, if you can see that working from home works, I mean, both me and my husband, we both work from home. He kind of goes in for lecturing to Reading Uni, but actually for me it works quite well. Yes, I do miss that kind of interaction, but as long as I can get that, with meetings and things like that, occasionally I'm fine. Or even just talking to people like this,
yeah,
it's nice. But yeah, people do recognize, don't they, nowadays, that there's something, that it's not just having to have that an hour and a half commute or 2 hour commute. I mean, in a way, that did used to be my kind of downtime where I'd have a bit of thinking time, and I was going to move on to this actually, because to me this sort of like, in a way, this sort of harmonizes with the thing about burnout, because I don't know whether other people, if people are listening, whether they feel like this, but the reason I burnt out last year was because of the fact that, so I had one part-time job. I was working 4 days a week, and then I had another I was doing some contract work as well, and then doing my own stuff, writing my programs, my training programs on the weekend, and I was just doing it for months
yeah.
and months, you
I
know.
hear you. That's what I do. Yeah,
But yeah, when I was driving, I worked for one company, and I'm in Reading, and they were down in Bridgewater, and actually, even though it was a long way, I mean, it's like a 2 hour commute,
yeah,
coming back, that was kind of like my time where I just thought, I'd listen to music, I'd sing, I'd be dancing in the car, looking like a right twit. But, actually, the thing I'm not doing now, and I think that the reason why I just was just pushing myself and not letting myself have that break, whereas sitting in the car was a break. So it's trying to, how do you feel that people working from home that have actually, they're enjoying working from home, but they're being like me, how do we avoid burnout in your
You've
in
got
your
to.
mind?
I think. I mean, I'm the same. I work from home, and as I was saying to you before we started, you have to set yourself some clear boundaries and stick to them.
Mm,
So, which room do you work in, and if that's a room that's a living part of your living space. Not everyone's got a separate office in their house, have they? Some people
yeah,
work from their
yeah,
bedroom or from
yeah.
the kitchen or the living room. Is in those work times, getting the laptop and putting it away. Once you finish work, putting the phone away, putting the laptop away. Some people have got separate work phones, some people don't. You can set timers on your phone to sort of say after a certain time you're not allowed to watch, to open up your emails or whatever. So just setting those boundaries. There are lots of apps you can use to limit your access after a certain time. Even
Mm,
making it clear with your organisation, don't email me at the weekend. I know it depends on your job, obviously. If you're on call, then but outside of your working hours, or even putting it on your out of office, I work these days, these hours. I'll contact you when I'm back in the office, because it's very
mm.
easy for organisations working from home. So, oh, they're at home, they'll answer it. So making sure you're clear with your boundaries for yourself and with your organisation and your customers or your colleagues, and
I'm
also
just
trying
reading
to
what. Go on,
have
sorry.
something to get out of the house as well. Get out,
Yeah,
go for a walk around the block. I,
yeah.
I've started an exercise class on a Wednesday night just to get out of the house and meet people, because I've been doing stuff online, Zoom, for the last 2 years, yoga and stuff, but it's on my own and on my laptop again. Need to
Mm.
get out.
I've,
Sorry,
I've
I'm
been,
you.
I was, no, I was saying to Michelle earlier on, who's watching, and she's made a comment, so I'll talk to you about it in a minute. But in fact, let me read the comment, because I think that my comment's just totally gone out of my head. So she's just saying, and this is part of what we were on about actually. I think entrepreneurs are very bad at times at not taking time off, because usually if we stop, the business stops, or we enjoy it so much as it's our passion, we get so into it we don't stop. And that, yeah, I agree with you, Michelle. I
Well, we were talking about that earlier, weren't we? I mean, I've set up a podcast,
Oh yeah,
creating resilience podcast, which started in October, and obviously I'm really passionate about that. But I do my day jobs 3 days a week, my social prescribing job, which is obviously salaried, and the rest of the time I'm doing my coaching and building my business and doing social media posts and all the other stuff, and bands and all that sort of thing. So you've got to have balance, because otherwise you're working 7 days a week and you're working to 10,
yeah.
11 o'clock at night. And when you're working from home, you've got to have some home space that isn't where you work. So,
I've just remembered what I was going to say. So I was saying to Michelle earlier, I've been trying to time block. I've been trying to put a note into time blocks, a 20-minute walk, and it keeps coming up on my calendar. Time block a 20-minute walk into your day, and I keep going, oh, I'll just put it off for 4 hours, and then it's another four
no,
hours. I really
got
need
to
to
do
get
it.
into it, or else
Yeah,
I'll fall down that rabbit hole again.
you
I
will, you
will.
will.
I
And
know I
if you
will.
think about it, it's about your self care, putting your oxygen mask on. So unless you do that and have that time out in the headspace, you won't have the energy or the creativity to be able to do your other stuff, will you?
I know. I know exactly. When it was sort of in November, and I couldn't even concentrate on one thing, never mind two, three things at a time. I just sat and felt a bit like a cabbage. I was sat there kind of like blah blah blah. But actually, even having enforced rest after my operation in December, just before Christmas, that kind of 2 weeks gave me that opportunity to actually just have some downtime and think, and
Were
it
you
just,
grateful for it?
oh my God, so grateful. I wasn't grateful
Yeah,
for the pain, but actually, yeah. And the ideas started brimming over then.
yeah.
So that, yeah, I get excited about the ideas. So I recognize that I need to do this, but maybe I need to have a hobby. So yeah, I need to go out and do something. I think, oh yeah, Michelle's just kind of doing lots of walking along So yes, maybe we need to have. In fact, my friend Emily, who was watching this earlier, we she lives in Buckingham and I live in Reading, and we were doing this kind of quite a lot to start off with. We need to get back into this. We do remote walking.
Oh,
So she'd be
nice.
walking around where she lives in Buckingham. So she lives in Akeley, just above Buckingham, and I'd be
Yeah.
walking around Caversham where I live. So we'd just be chatting on the phone. So
Would you
we
have an
just
accountability buddy to help you get out and do the walk?
say that again. Sorry.
Accountability buddy to help you
Yeah,
get out and do the
absolutely.
walking. Yeah,
Yeah, so I need
that's
anybody
great.
who's watching more accountability buddies, please. Somebody come on and give me. I was going to say, give me a kick up the bum but my husband's probably listening, so he'll probably come and do it anyway.
Well, see, my issue is that my husband loves going out for a walk, but he's a dry stone waller, so we'll come in from work, being outdoors all day and absolutely
Yeah,
exhausted because he's been
I
lifting
don't
and
want to.
shifting all day and been out, especially in this weather, been out in the freezing cold. So he comes in cold and tired and hungry and wants to just flop, whereas I'm like, I've been in the house all day. I want to get out. So
Yeah,
I don't want to go out on
yeah.
my own. So actually, the thing that keeps me accountable is I volunteer as a health walk leader for our
Oh,
local
do
thing. So
you?
yeah, so that's great because you get to meet other people you wouldn't normally meet, and actually you've got to be there. I'm only doing it once a month for them. I have to do all the stuff on a Friday as well. So yeah, once a month I actually go out and actually have to plan the walk and actually lead a group of people out, and that's brilliant because you get to
Oh,
meet all
brilliant.
sorts of people and feel like you're doing contributing as well. Because
Yeah,
talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You've got your basic needs, you've got your psychological needs, but at the top you've got your sort of self-actualization needs, which is
yeah.
your contribution and your purpose. So that actually helps doing some sort of connecting with your community in some way.
I've just seen it. Em's just said, "Tell me when, Liz." Yes, just keep hassling me,
Oh,
Em,
see,
and I
that's it. You're
will.
gonna know.
Come on, my accountability girl. Come
Get
on.
your warm poncho and you'll
Make,
be
make,
fine.
I know. I just need one. Yeah, but I'll be wanting maracas then and a big hat. Sorry.
Well, you can make it a
Um,
dance walk.
say that again.
Make it a dance walk.
Oh my God! What round here? You kidding? They'd be sending me to the hospital saying that I'd lost the plot. Oh my goodness. Right, I'm gonna so what are your top tips to avoid but we've talked about a lot about burnout, but what would you say your top tips are? And are there any central resources? I mean, maybe if you want to give your website details, is there somewhere that people can go to kind of find out more about you, or even just central kind of places where we can find kind of just more general information about where to look for kind of social prescribing and things like that?
Well, the National Academy for Social Prescribing, NASP, that's the place to go for all the evidence base and resources and information. There's projects. I'm Thriving Community Somerset, and there's over 30 projects all over the UK that are being funded by NASP. So
Okay.
there'll probably be one in your area wherever you are
Mm,
in the country.
mm,
And there's all sorts of wonderful things going on. I mean, I've commissioned a Thriving Voices choir for people with long COVID and respiratory conditions. I've commissioned a Earn a Bike scheme where people learn to strip down and rebuild a bike and film themselves doing it.
yeah,
Commissioned the
brilliant.
Meads and Marshes in Bridgewater where people get out to go on the mead in Bridgewater and do some mindfulness and nature-based stuff. What else? Commissioned wordplay, poetry. Yes, there's all sorts of things that I've been commissioning through that. Um, and yeah, so that's where I'd point you to the National Academy for Social Prescribing, and they do these really brilliant webinars, sharing different aspects because they share the different things, so money advice, financial money advice, getting out, sport, exercise, arts, access and nature, the different themes each talk.
Mm,
I think the
mm,
next one they're doing is about libraries, which is quite an interesting one. So it's about connecting with
interesting.
your local library because obviously they're a really big community hub resource and a good way of
Mm,
connecting.
mm,
So that's how you find out. So top tips.
yeah,
Top tips for what? Become more resilient?
yeah, and yeah, resilience and stopping a bit of burnout,
Okay.
stopping burnout.
Okay. So I guess my first one that's come to my head, because this is all off the top of my head, because you only sprung these questions on me about 40
I
minutes ago,
know, I know.
uh, and it's been a long day. First one I would say actually is accepting yourself. And that sounds a bit strange, but if anyone's listened to anything about from Marissa Peer, I Am Enough, Have you heard of Marissa
Yes,
Peer?
I've heard of Marissa
Yeah,
Peer.
she's
Yeah.
brilliant. She's a rapid transformational therapist, like a type of hypnotherapy. So it's a bit like EFT, but it's anyway. The first thing is, as Louise Hay, who founded Hay House, said, is if you want to clean your house, you first got to see the dirt. So if you want to do any change, make any change, or stop anything, you've got to actually accept it's there. So
Mm,
acceptance of yourself and the situation. So recognizing what situation you're in, and you can just say you recognize you're burning out. And then the second one I would say is having some self compassion. So whatever you see or feel you're in, be kind to yourself, be your own compassionate friend.
yeah.
So don't say anything to yourself that you wouldn't say to your friend.
Mm,
And
mm,
that stops you from trying to push yourself harder or not seeking advice or support.
yeah.
See what I mean? Because it's a shoulda,
Yeah,
woulda,
yeah.
coulda, isn't it? I should have done this. I would have done this. I could have done this.
I
Stop
know.
that.
I was
Cut those
so
out.
good at that. I was
Yeah,
so good at that.
yeah.
So
Don't even go there. The shoulda, woulda, couldas, because that's beating yourself up, and that's not where you need to go.
yeah, yeah. I think you
And
just,
then
yeah, you,
and then the third tip I would say is don't be afraid to ask for help or support.
mm,
And if you
mm,
can't do everything, don't. Or just do it in the slow along. Like I was saying to you, I was trying to juggle everything like you was. I'm trying to go to a podcast, blogging every week, social media. It's like this is my schedule. I'm saying I have to do it weekly. Well, why do I have to do it weekly? I'll do it fortnightly. Nobody's going to care if
yeah,
I don't blog
yeah,
out a fortnight. But it's the pressure you feel to do it weekly.
yeah.
Um, don't or get somebody to help you. Who can do it better. So if somebody else is better at scheduling on whatever social media platform, then that's your
My
time.
two
What's
are
your
on
time?
here. My
So
two are on here. In fact, Chris and Michelle are both they're absolute godsend for me because so Chris I've been working with for probably nearly a year now, Chris, and he writes. He's my wordsmith and writes all of my or rewrites things that I write. I'll send him a thing and I'll go, Chris, can you do that? And he'll just change it. I'll be like, oh, look at that, that's
you'll
amazing.
have to
Look.
send me his details then,
I
because
will. I will. He's on it, and also Michelle is fantastic with all graphics and stuff. She's only just been working with me for a little while. I'm just looking at these two. So what? In fact, I don't. Hang on. There's some comments that I just missed. So let me just see. Hang on. Give me 1 second. I can just see something that says like a slightly limp phoenix. Oh, here we go. Hang on. So here we go. I realise this is Chris because it's coming up on my screen here. He said, "I'm a member of the Poetry Society, the Poetry Society. Dead creative, I am." He says, and
brilliant.
but he also said, "I burnt out at 25 and rebuilt myself on the smouldering remains." And then Michelle said, "Like a phoenix," and he said, "Yeah, slightly limp phoenix."
Oh, you should. I tell you what, Chris, you need to go to the Rainbow Fish poetry sessions that Liv Talk runs. Liv Talk's running my wordplay every once a month on a Thursday. They'll have to miss a chinwag. It's Rainbow Fish poetry, and it's basically an open mic poetry session.
Oh,
And they always have a guest poet, it's like a professional poet, like Elvis McGonagall or somebody like that, brilliant poet. But then people can just sign up. I think it's about £3, and you can just sign up and read out some of your poems and hear other people's and share. It's really good laugh. It's brilliant.
Oh, there you go, Chris. You should read
Yeah,
that one. He wrote one this morning, and
yeah.
actually, I thought he was being serious. Was it this morning? Or was it yesterday? I thought he was being serious. And I went, oh, maybe just change this word. It was kind of, if you want to be lean, then you've got to be mean. I'm going, no, I don't want to
Oh,
be mean.
amazing.
But actually, it was really, really good. And I was like, oh, this is quite cool. And me and Michelle were going, oh yeah, this is really good.
See, I live with a songwriter, so I get his lyrics all the time, and it inspires me. So I've actually mastered a book. I've got a book. Well, I've got enough for a book. That's one of my goals this year, is to publish a book of poetry. So,
Oh, get you. Look at that. Hang on. Oh yeah. So Michelle's saying, yeah, it was this morning, wasn't it? So the poem this morning was like she's put it was epic. It was really, really good.
okay.
So right. I just need to find out because I'm written this down because I don't want to forget this. Let everybody know what your website is and what your podcast is called and all the social media channels that they can get you on.
Okay. So Work Safe and Well is worksafeandwell.co.uk, and if you put overwhelmed / overwhelmed and stressed after that, you'll get my download how to tame your stress triggers. So that's worksafeandwell.co.uk/overwhelm and stress.
Mm-hmm.
And the podcast is the Creating Resilience podcast.
Yeah.
Look it up on Anchor or Spotify. And I've got Heather Jean on there from Confidence of Cabaret coming out on the 30th. I don't know if you've seen Confidence of Cabaret, but she teaches
No.
cabaret skills to increase her self-confidence and self-esteem. So
Oh, wow.
very interesting lady. So she's come. That's the next guest. And we've got somebody else who's going to be on there soon as well, I think. Yeah, we'll see.
I'm not sure who that might be.
And I'm on LinkedIn, Ann Diment, Changemaker, and I'm on Instagram as Ann Diment Artist. All my
Have
creative
I been
stuff.
pronouncing your name all this time? I've been, Diamond then. Sorry,
Yeah,
I apologise.
it's Ann Diment, but it's a bit close to the lady that used to be on television, and I get so many people that's a standing joke about no. Yeah, so anyway.
So you didn't mind me calling you Diment. I'm sorry, I
It's not my
apologise.
name, it's my husband's, isn't it? I didn't want it. It took me 8 years to get married because I didn't want to have that name, you know that.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, bless you.
So
Any
on
other
Instagram,
social media places?
yeah,
Uh,
Instagram's Ann Diment Artist, and obviously on Facebook it's Work Safe and Well, but also for the EFT it's Creative Leader EFT. So I think that's about it.
okay.
That's everything.
And
You can
for
see why I
your
have hats I'm wearing. It's too many.
the webinar that you're putting together, can people get hold of that yet? Or will that kind of,
Um,
oh yeah.
well, I've got one on Teachable, and I actually, if somebody messages me, I can send. I've got it up on YouTube, but I just re-recorded it because again it's a perfectionist in me. I wanted to make it better, so I have got it up on YouTube as a private link. Obviously, if people contact me, because I only usually offer it as part of my Power Hour coaching package. So what I do
Right.
is um, before we have our hour-long coaching session, I give them access to this video, so they've got some insight into what burnout is and what they need to talk about in the power hour, so we can come prepared to the power hour and get
Okay.
the most
So
out of the hour.
for the power hour, that's you coaching them through burnout then, is it? Or just
Yeah, we'll
kind of
coach them through
identifying
some
it?
strategies to identify what what they want to start tackling to get them out of burnout, and then obviously follow up with them afterwards a few times. So, but I've decided to take that video and actually offer it separately because I thought that give people more access rather than instead of
Yeah.
having to pay for the power hour on it. So because obviously power hour is a higher price point, I thought I'd offer people
I get
something at a
you.
lower price point just to have the video.
Michelle's just shared your website in the
Oh,
chat,
thank
by
you.
the way.
Thank you.
She's ever so good. She's very, very good.
Oh,
so,
brilliant.
so I think so. The only other thing that I want to say is to everybody watching, if you've not come, and this is to you as well, so if you get a chance, we kind of rehashed our website before Christmas.
Right.
Um, and basically we've put a survey together. It's on SurveyMonkey. I think it's in the featured articles on the on this Facebook group. Next Thursday, I am going to announce the winner of the survey. So basically, what I'm saying is, we put a survey together. I want people to look at the website, give me some feedback. If there's anything that really stands out like a sore thumb that you think that needs changing, then please put it in the survey. Put your name and your email address on there, and you will go into a draw. I'll do a random name draw next Thursday on the Chinwag, and I will let you know who wins that. So make sure, if you've not done it, please have a look at our website. You just need to have a look, like for 5 minutes, have a quick click through. Does it make sense? Does it look like she's so good. Michelle's so good. She's just shared the survey literally now. You're on it like a car bonnet, as they said on a TV program I was watching. So thanks, Michelle. So she's just literally shared the survey in the chat now. So please just fill it in, put your details in, and you'll be up for £25 Amazon voucher. Like I say, I'll do this random prize draw next week. But yeah, also with Michelle, would you do me a favour and share our freebie, because we've also got a freebie on there on our it's just basically looking at little areas to kind of help improve organisations. And if you want to sign up for our newsletters, we're kind of reinvigorating our newsletters. We had a meeting today, and we're reinvigorating our newsletters. So we'll be sending those out every week. So there'll be little tidbits like this in there. So yeah, please do that. And if Michelle can find it, then there'll be there'll be a way of sharing it. Yeah, so next week it's just me talking a little bit more about kind of operational. So it's not going to be as exciting because I won't have you on, but
I'll be
but
out for dinner. It's my daughter's birthday next week. We're going to have dinner.
it's whose birthday? Your
It's my
husband's?
daughter's birthday.
Who's your
So,
daughter's? Oh, cool. Oh, hang on. Oh, you're on it. She's on it. Michelle's on it now. Thank you, love. But yes, so next week it'll just be me on my own, and then the following week I've got a chap that has had a kind of a very corporate career in working for BT for many years, called Alistair Hall, and he's going to be talking a bit about change management. So I've got a full list of people that I'm going to, other than me coming on and doing the prize draw next week. There's I've got lots of people kind of coming in every few weeks. So, but listen, just to get you back here and live, even, it's just been a joy, darling. It's been an absolute joy. I really appreciate your time, and yeah, so contact Anne. Make sure, and I will be watching this. I will be watching this back, and I'll be making notes once my arm's able to make notes.
When you can come out again, if you're better by March, I'm on tour with the band. You can come see a gig.
Oh yeah, you've got to tell us where you're playing. I'd love that. I'm sure I could drag Rich down as well. So yeah, that'd be great. Oh, by the way, so Michelle's just shared in the chat also our freebie, which is just basically you sign up to that. There's kind of like a, yes, did I say freebie? Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So our freebie, which is just kind of some information. It's kind of taking continuous improvement to business reality. Or is it business reality anyway, to continuous improvement, get it the right way around, Liz, and yeah, you can sign up to the newsletter from that. So yeah, but Anne, thank you ever so much for this evening.
Brilliant.
It's been absolutely brilliant. I really, really appreciate it. So maybe you stay on, and I'll end the live stream. But listen, good night, everybody, and I shall see you next week. Thanks a lot. Bye. Bye.